So last time, at the end of the previous canto, we have been introduced to Satyavan indirectly. A stranger on the sorrowful roads of time, 101.22 last sentence of the previous page. A stranger on the sorrowful roads of time, immortal under the yoke of death and fate, a sacrificant of the bliss and pain of the sphere. Love in the wilderness met Savitri. This is what we were talking last time. Love in the wilderness met Savitri. This is an appropriate introduction to the following canto, Satyavan. So that love is immediately identified with Satyavan in the next canto. That way, the logical development of Savitri as a story, as a narration, is something very remarkable, very tight, very closely knit. One after the other, the sequences is perfect. The sequences go sort of in a very natural way. In other words, this particular canto Satyavan does not come to us with any kind of an abruptness. How suddenly? He has already prepared us. Look, now I am going to tell you something about Satyavan. He has already said in the last sentence of the previous canto. The Lord of Transformation is there carved on the mountain rock, blue-throated, ascetic, and he is watching the entire scene, and it is under his witness eye all these things are going to happen. Satyavan will come, Savitri will come, they will meet, etc., etc., etc. Exactly 1 year after their meeting, Satyavan will die here in this place, and the beginning of the new creation will start here at this place, under the kingly trunk, as it says in some other place. So, the nature of Satyavan, his role is already described in a few brief sentences. Not even sentences, few phrases basically. Satyavan, who is Satyavan? He is a stranger on the sorrowful roads of time. In fact, he has come to the sorrowful world, yet he is a stranger. Immortal under the yoke of death and fate. That is what Satyavan is, the immortal. A sacrificant of the bliss and pain of the spheres. He has sacrificed everything here. And then it is that love which is going to meet Savitri in the next canto. So, immortal under the yoke of death and fate, that is the entire burden of Satyavan's avatarhood. He has taken upon himself the burden of death and pain. He is carrying that thing. He is immortal, avatar, the incarnate. He has come here and he is carrying that burden on him. The yoke of death and pain is there on his neck all the while. You can put it the other way around also. He is carrying the cross of death and pain on his shoulders. Now, this is a kind of a passive description of Satyavan. What is he himself doing? The dynamism. That has not come out in this one. But he is accepting this load. for a certain purpose. In that sense, perhaps he is playing, perhaps he is playing a greater role than Savitri. To carry passively the burden of this ignorant, inconscient creation, it is that role which he is playing. Savitri is the dynamic aspect of it. The yoke is there, and to remove that yoke from his neck, that is the job of Savitri. That is what she is going to do. She has taken her birth specifically for that purpose, to remove death and pain from this creation. Now, in one place, the mother says, "Who is Satyavan?" And she asks a counter question. Isn't he the avatar? In fact, he is the first avatar. Long before the series of avatars came, he is the first incarnation in this creation. That goes back to the story of creation narrated by the mother. In the story of the creation, as a story, she tells that four powers, they went far away from the Supreme, from their source, and they became opposite. Consciousness became inconscience, life became death, bliss became pain and suffering. It is the separation of the four powers which has caused this havoc of this creation. That was necessary, it happened, it has happened. But the mother says then, when this horror of separation was seen from above, horror of separation, she uses the word horror of separation was seen, then immediately the divine plunged into the void. Plunged into the void. And it is the presence of the divine in the void that is his first incarnation. And the name of that first incarnation is Satyavan. It is the being of truth, Satya, who carries truth. It is the being of truth who has stationed himself in the void. When truth became falsehood, things had to be rescued. And that is possible only when the Supreme Himself stations here in this void. Otherwise, there is no way out at all, you see. So Satyavan is, in that sense, carrying that entire burden on him. Immortal under the yoke of death and pain. That is what he has done. The Supreme, as a delegate, as the incarnate, he has come here and he is carrying death and pain. Pardon me? Pain. Yeah. Is there no? I mean, the second line of the. The death and fate. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Now, and therefore he is sacrificant. He has sacrificed his lordliness, his Aishwarya. That is what he has sacrificed. He is a royal being there up. He has sacrificed and stationed himself into the void. His Aishwarya he sacrificed and he has come here. Now it is this being who is going to meet Savitri. That is what the concluding line means. So although Savitri is in search of a life partner, it is he who is going to meet her, see, basically. Because he has been waiting for her. He has been kind of waiting for her all along, you see. He cannot be rescued from this clutch of death without her. So he has been sort of waiting for her. And therefore, in that wilderness, in that forest, in that loneliness, it is he who is going to meet Savitri. Although Savitri is going from place to place in search of a life partner, but the reality, so to say, is the other way around. Now, therefore, with all that background, by the way, there is another important aspect also which may connect with what is said here. The very first canto, the symbol dawn, closes with the line, "This was the day when Satyavan must die." This was the day when Satyavan must die. Now, it is the day of their meeting which is going to determine this day he must die, 1 year after their meeting. So the meeting is important in connection with that statement. This was the day when Satyavan must die. Now, why he must die? Because it is in that death of his the new creation can begin. He has to die to his past. All that had happened earlier, he has to give up, die to that past. Then only the future can begin, can open out. He must die because of that. So, we could say, in a kind of a dramatic manner, that the first death of the Supreme is when he decided to plunge into the inconscient void. He sacrificed all his lordliness, Aishwarya, he came down and stationed himself in the void. That is his first death. His second death is the day when Satyavan must die. The second and the last death. There are only 2 deaths for him. He comes here, sacrifices everything, it is a kind of a death for him. Now, all that has happened, that he has to give up, dissolve, it must disappear, and therefore the second death must take place. So, when Satyavan must die, it is actually the second death. Now, therefore, that must. He has to die if a new creation has to begin. It is not that Satyavan will die. Satyavan has to die. He must die. That is important. He must die. Then only the new creation can begin. So, their meeting, the death, pain, fate, all those things get connected in one particular sentence here. In that sense, he is a sacrificant. And therefore, the second canto begins with this one. All she remembered on this day of fate. This is important. This day of fate. She remembered. She is going to meet him now, Satyavan, physically. Here. But the entire history of the creation, the entire past, it kind of fleets across her memory. Yes, 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 all those things that happened. This day of fate. Now, F is capital. When it is said that Satyavan must die, that must is linked up with fate. It has to happen. It is fated that Satyavan and Savitri will meet. It is fated that he will die, so that the new creation begins. In fact, that is what the previous canto meant, the destined meeting place. It has to happen here at the given hour. The road, now he is giving a kind of a story-like description from the next line. The road that hazarded not the solemn depths. Savitri is coming, driving her chariot, Hema carbon car, she is driving the horses, not through the hazardous solemn depths, not to the forest, not to the thickets and like that, but on an open place. The road that hazarded not the solemn depths means of the deep forest, but turned away to flee to human homes. She has come to the forest, instead of entering the forest, she is now taking a turn where there is human habitation, the chariot, you see. To human home, the wilderness with its mighty monotone, the morning like a lustrous sphere above. While she is driving, the morning which is seeing like a bright, brilliant sphere, the whole scene, you see. Above, the passion of the summits lost in heaven, passion of the summits, these mountains which are rising up, waiting for this hour, for this moment, for this event to take place. They're waiting, they're eagerly waiting for that. That is the passion. Summit lost in heaven, they're climbing up to high skies, waiting for this event. The titan murmur of the endless woods. So all that she avoided, and she is entering into a region where there is human habitation. Instead of going through the thick forest, she is going from place to place. All right, now she sees here some human habitation. She drives her chariot towards that. Now, there is something significant. It is not just for the sake of poetry that poet is describing all these things. There is a certain purposefulness also in the description. He says, the morning like a lustrous sphere above, morning. So on the fated day, it is going to be in the morning. They are going to meet in the morning, early in the morning, maybe around 8 o'clock or so. Satyavan is coming, Savitri is coming, and they are going to meet early in the morning around 8 o'clock. They see each other, they recognize each other, all those things happen, and then they pledge to be together. And that happens at a noon hour. As the book proceeds, we see that they had decided to be together, and that moment is noon. So, this is a kind of a rendezvous for about 3 hours, from morning or 4 hours roughly, from 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock. Everything is fixed, decided, you see. She comes here in the morning, they meet, etc., etc., and then the heavenly marriage takes place at 12 noon, you see. And things start unfolding from that point onward. So, the whole description is now pertaining for those 3 hours. This canto and the next canto will kind of give you some idea about those 3-4 hours, you see, here you see.